Joining us now live from Washington is Mark Bloomfield, president of the U.S. think tank, the American Council for Capital Formation. Mark Bloomfield. So, will this do the trick?
I think in the short term it will. I think you're going to stop a systemic risk, but who knows what will happen in the future.
Why? What might happen?
Why? Because what this is a failed experiment. It is a failed experiment of public risk and private profit. In other words, this is a combination where if the public takes the risk, as it is now by providing taxpayer relief, but at the same time they were providing profit for these companies to take all sorts of risks with loans they never anticipated in the 30s. And that type of economic model doesn't work. So what I'm saying is right now, you stopped a systemic risk, but this type of experiment I don't think will work in the future. Let me be very succinct on that. Go back to Stratford-on-Avon. You've got a local savings and loan there, which is lending money to William Shakespeare. It was very, very simple. Shakespeare gave him the deed to the home, and what the bank got, the bank gave him the money. And it was a simple transaction. That transaction is no longer the way the world works now. The way it works now, that bank on Stratford-on-Avon ends up selling that loan to somebody, God knows where. It could be Northern Rock. It could be God knows where. But there is a separation now of risk from the actual loan.
All right.
And so that is a problem with all banks. Okay. This is just one example. But this particular situation is worse because all the risk was on the public, and all the gain was private.
If I could just come in here for a moment, Mark Bloomfield. It's a presidential election year, and of course, every politician on both sides wants to keep people in their homes who otherwise might be defaulting on their mortgages. Will today's move in any way help those homeowners who are in deep trouble?
Oh, I think in the short term, and that is why Obama, that is why McCain, that is why everybody endorsed it. They're basically putting off the decision of what to do with this sort of financing of mortgages for the middle class until after the election. But we're fine probably until the election.
But should the U.S. taxpayer, I mean, you touched on this, should the U.S. taxpayer be asked by both the Republicans and the Democrats, in effect, to kind of write an open check for these two institutions?
Well, it is an open check and it isn't an open check. I think just like, this is, by the way, 25 times the size of the bridge rescuing of Northern Rock. There was so much systemic risk with $5 trillion out there that they had to do something to calm down the markets. Now, people will suffer. The stockholders are wiped out. It is possible, perhaps, that if the shares go up, that the government will get some of its money back. They're buying preferred shares. They get a 10% return on that. So it is, unfortunately, they had to do something, but as I said earlier, this is not the model of what we should do in the future, given what I just said in terms of the drastic change in financing.
Okay, but very quickly, a large part of the loans were held by foreign countries, particularly in Asia. Are they going to be reassured that investments in dollars are kind of more safe than they thought they might be briefly?
I think they're going to be reassured because basically the federal government, by stepping in, is guaranteeing that those $5 trillion that your reporter alluded to, owned by sovereign trust organizations, by foreign banks, and by private investors around the world, will be paid back.
Okay, Mark Bloomfield, thanks very much.